Okay, so I'm guessing this is recording. I hope it is. Well, today I'm gonna talk about 3 of the final questions that were given to us, and I'm gonna start by talking about my writing process throughout the semester. And basically, well, this is a little mini rough draft of my rough draft. I don't know what happened to the other one, but most of the students in my English class, 1388 class, had already taken Bonnie's English 1301 course, and because of this they already had an idea of what their semester was going to look like. Since the semester of fall 2017, they began working on a research paper, and coming into this course, the first week I was told that I was gonna develop a research paper throughout the semester, and I realized that I have never actually done one. And the first week I had to write a whole new research paper, and I remember Bonnie telling me to write as much as I could on a topic that I care for. So I began writing, and well, this is not 2 to 3 pages, but the draft that I did turn in that first time was 2 to 3 pages, and it was on the struggles undocumented students live with every day. And my first draft, I turned it in, and in this draft I simply made a thesis, and I followed with it with some facts that I found. And when writing my first draft, I try to follow the 4 sections that we would look for in our weekly readings, which were situation, the claim, the evidence, and the audience and purpose. And because of this, I was able to it was easier for me to set up my essay and structure it in that setting, because after doing the readings that we would do, which are over here, after each reading I was able to get a sense of how my research paper was supposed to look like. So each one of these readings that we did, we found the claim, the evidence, the audience, the purpose, and the situation. And because of that, I was able to do my own research paper. I knew that these 4 elements were essential for any research paper, and that their placement plays the role in how the audience will interpret my essay. And so after my meeting with Bonnie that we had at the beginning of the semester, I came up with a bunch of insightful notes to better my research. And after that meeting, I was able to find my own voice in my paper, and was able to find the voice that I wanted to portray and the evidence that I wanted to use. To make sure my essay made an impact, I chose to use my own testimony, which is over here. Well, I'm gonna try using the other one. Here. The first 2 pages of my paper talk about the background of why I did my paper, and it gives you a few statistics and numbers, some facts, to make sure that my point gets across. And so it's the first, I would say, the first 3 papers of my essay talk about a background. And so in my 4th one, I start with my own story, and first I did a little story, a little overview of my life, and then I followed it by different topics, which I will talk about shortly. And then with this meeting, I wanted to make sure that my essay made an impact on the people that were reading it, so I chose to use my own testimony as evidence to reach out to people's emotions and persuade them in that way and in that form. And then from then, I decided that my essay would target an audience that was in the middle of the conflict. When I first wrote it, my first draft was intended for people that were for the people that supported already. But Bonnie made me realize that people that supported were not the audience that I was trying to reach. Instead, I was trying to reach the people that were in the middle, or who didn't really know much about the undocumented community. And this made it finding my audience made it much more easier to write down my testimony and my story, and it made my essay come together. And after establishing what my purpose and audience would be, I was able to proceed and finalize my essay. Okay, and now I'm gonna talk about fitting genre to audience and purpose. So after deciding that I wanted my research paper to be a combination of straight facts and my own story, I made it into that. When I was choosing the pictures for my cover, I went around campus looking for my cover picture, and I knew right off the bat that I wanted to have a picture of the flag that's in the front on U Central by the university. It has the United States flag and the Texas flag, and I thought that this would be a good choice for a cover picture, considering that I'm talking about borders. However, there was not a Mexican flag, and I didn't have time to go, I don't know, closer to the border, if that makes sense, to take a picture. And so I took 5 pictures in total. This is one of them. I think I took 2 of the flag. This is the other one. It's closer, and if I had chosen to do a flag one, then it would have probably been this one. And I also chose, I was in between some pictures that represented our culture, which you can see here. They're dancing and enjoying, and when I looked at them, I just immediately thought of our culture. This is another picture that I was thinking of doing. This is a painting that I found at the E-Labs. They have a gallery in the middle of E-Labs, so I knew that they were having a gallery of border related culture paintings and artifacts, and so this was one of them. I don't remember the name, but this is the border that they painted, that they depicted. And I wasn't able to go inside, so I took this one from outside the glass, and maybe I would have used it. I would have liked to have been able to go inside and take the picture up close. But lastly, my cover image was this one. This one, as you can see, it shows the university, which I talk about in my essay, and it shows our culture, which I also talk about. This shows family and the arts, the violin, which are all things that I do talk about in my essay, and which is why I thought that this was best to choose as a cover image. And yeah, I chose one that represented my own culture and represented my story best. Now it was coming up with the title. Coming up with the title was hard. At first, as you can see over here, my title was The Struggles Undocumented Students Live With, and I didn't want to use this one because I thought it was too vague, and I feel like since I was only using one story, this wasn't really gonna portray the purpose that I wanted, and I just didn't feel like it fit my whole purpose, and it wasn't impactful. Like when you read, the struggles undocumented students live with, like a lot of people have already written this. So instead, I decided to change my title to Undocumented, a young girl's plea for change. And I chose this one because at the end of my essay, I signed it in order to make it more vulnerable and more personal. I signed it as Sincerely the Girl Who's Ready for Change. So at first you can see that it's a change. In my title I'm asking for change, and at the end I'm already ready for it. And I feel like that made a more huge impact on the reader that was going through my essay. And I got this undocumented, and then tell because it tells the story of a girl who is undocumented, and that was part of my title. I believe that my cover pictures and my title helped me come up with the purpose, helped me establish the purpose that I really wanted, which was to get my story across, to get people to help. And it also helped my audience because I was reaching out to an audience that was that didn't really know much about the situation, and with a title like this, they're able to reach into the hearts and see that I'm being vulnerable with my essay, and maybe find it in their hearts to change their minds, or to ultimately, my purpose was to get them to vote, to use their right as citizens to vote, which is over here. I subtitled it as What I'm Asking of You, and basically here I talk about urging you, a U.S. citizen, to go out to the voting booths and exercise your right as citizens of this country to choose who represent you. That was ultimately my purpose, to get them to go out and vote for representatives. And while doing that, I asked that you empathize with our struggles enough to make you want to stand by us. And that was my purpose, and I believe that my cover picture and my title really caught the audience attention and helped them see what I was trying to do. Lastly, I would like to discuss integrating secondary sources and writing with authority. So for this paper, I didn't really use much secondary sources, but I did use two. And in order to find reliable secondary sources, I used the CRAP sheets to find them. CRAP is an acronym for Currency, Relevance, Authority, Accuracy, and Purpose. As you can see, this is one of them. This is CRAP sheet number 1. And this one, I believe it talks about, it's from College Simply that I got, that was my source. And this one was about, I was trying to get information on tuition for UT Austin, and it was for this purpose to say that, because I was talking about TASFA and how it only grants up to 10,000, but for students that want to go to schools that are more expensive, then it's a struggle for them to find money. However, I use this CRAP sheet to get those estimates of what tuition will be at UT Austin. And as you can see, currency, it tells you what is the timeliness of this information, what was the information published or posted, does your topic require current information. These are just some questions that you have to ask yourself in order, before using a secondary source in your essay, to make sure that you are current, so that you're not talking about really old topics that may not have to do with the problem that you're talking about today. And also the relevance, how does it relate to your topic? You don't want to talk about something that doesn't relate to your topic at all. And authority, how is this credible? So who is the publisher, who is the source, who's the sponsor, and how do we know that this person is credible or not? What experience do they have to consider themselves credible? Accuracy is how reliable it is, so how truthful and correct it is. So you need to know that a source is truthful, because when you put it in your bibliography, if somebody is curious to see if you're talking about is true, then they can go to your bibliography and go to that source that you used, and they can determine for themselves that if it is truthful or not. So it's better to do this background check first and check for verification and it's truthful in it. And then lastly, it's the purpose. What is the reason? Why is it that this source exists, and what is the purpose for the source for the people reading or getting the source? What is the purpose for them to read it? And that's basically it for this one. Was for UT Austin. My second CRAP sheet was on Global Citizen, and this source, I remember it was cited it was published in 2014, so it's 4 years ago, and I decided to use it because it wasn't that outdated. And also this source specifically gave me a list of problems that struggled undocumented immigrants faced, and it was kind of like a blog article that told you all those details. And I used it because it was a struggle as a whole, so I needed to talk about that. And this one I used it on my first draft before I moved on to using my own testimony, which leads me to talk about figuring out if I wanted to do interviews or not. At first, I wanted to do interviews on other students like me to get more testimonies and to get my point across better. However, I feel like I didn't have a right to document their stories just because we each have our own story and it wouldn't be right to put it in my own words. And because of that, I decided to just stick to my own testimony, which begins over here. It begins with my story. Here it's an overview of where I come from, where I went, how my first years were, and just basic. It's preparing you to read the next divisions that I added. And then I chose to divide my story in different factors such as education, family interaction, emotional health, identifying how I struggle to identify, and I put also why does my story matter, and lastly I talked about what I wanted my audience to do or to get from this essay, because going back to incorporating the situation, the claim, the evidence, the audience, and the purpose, me placing what I'm asking of you goes along with the purpose, and it's supposed to be at the end. This is what I've learned from reading various articles, that your purpose and your audience go at the end, and so I decided to do that as well and make it straightforward, like what am I asking of you, why are you reading the story, and this is the reasons why, which I have mentioned before, and it's to get them to vote for people that will represent them, and at the same time for them to think about us, the undocumented community. And this is basically it for the 3 questions that I decided to do. This semester has truly been great. This class was the best English course I could have taken in my life, and I was able to write about something that I'm strongly passionate about, and I was able to put it into a magazine, which was a great experience. I have a little copy of the magazine over here. I have my documents and then my spring. Okay, here are all the essays that were put into Publisher, which were 15 essays and the cover and the table of contents, and it was truly amazing to do this. It was a great experience. I was able to learn how to trust other individuals and working together, and being a part of this magazine team, I gained a lot of experience using Publisher, although it was a lot of stressful times, but I did gain a lot of experience, and it actually helps me. This is one of the essays that I did, one of the ones that I published, and it was a great experience just because I was able to use a different program that I have never used before, and I was able to put somebody else's essay and make it visible for the eye and make it, for people to read it and be like, whoa, I want to read this story. So here it's loading, but I will show you one of the ones that I did. This is Janae's essay called Cooperation, the Student Athlete Anthem, which I also came up with this title when we were doing peer reviews. I chose this title because she talks about basketball athletes and talks about how working in a team is important, and this is the one I did. Each square is a paragraph, so I decided to divide it like that just so it can look a little more attention looking. The basketballs I actually drew in paint. Since we couldn't use images from Google, I decided that it would be cool if I drew them and help them make it more cute and attention grabbing. So this is one of the magazines, one of the articles of the magazine that I did published. And yes, from working in the magazine team to doing my research paper, from to going to do take cover pictures, choosing a cover photo, choosing a title, and also doing peer reviews, it all helped me become a stronger writer. I believe that it helped me be more confident in what I'm writing and why I'm writing certain things. I know that most of the time, or sometimes, we write a lot of essays that we probably are not that passionate about. However, following the certain criteria that I have followed doing this essay, I am able to say that I can go on to write more essays, and I will definitely think back to everything that I've learned in this course and my experience in this course. I couldn't have imagined having the same experience with another professor, so thank you, Bonnie. And this concludes my integrity final video. Thank you.